If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option, as Sori says. $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. $125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and then get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at insori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go in the village, facebook.com/VillageXchange. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy merch indeed. A child shall lead them
to buy our merch.
Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener. We are in the midst of the Grindcore. Let's do it.
Stream. And this is for the big homie Metlcat.
Metlcat in this bitch.
Boop, 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 boop. This is exactly what he looks like. I have been corresponding with the small cat for months now.
It talks. Okay.
All right, Repulsion is the band we have coming up next. The name of the song is Stench of Burning Death.
Stench of Burning
Our
Death.
Our DJ says the other foundational, it was like aluminum, band is Repulsion from Flint, Michigan. Repulsion were formed in 1984. They recorded their first and only full-length album, Horrified, in 1986, but it was not released until 1989. Since it does not appear that you have reacted to Repulsion before, we will be listening to 2 songs off the Horrified. 1, Stench of Burning Death, and 2, Decomposed. Let's check it out.
All right. Hopefully I've summarily made you all awkward. If we don't get 15 extra likes,
we're canceling the stream.
We're canceling the stream. Let's go. Repulsed. What is this now?
Stench of Burning Death.
Stench of
Burning Death. What?
We could do so much with your range.
That was playful. What is that?
Solo. I bet it's giving you anxiety. Conveyor belt. right, that wonderful uplifting tune was called The Stench of Burning Death
Okay,
by
there
our
was
good
something
friends.
in there. I don't know if my headphones were up too high or what, but okay, so as you guys know, we have 8 children in total. One of them is Heaven, but there's still plenty of them in the home with us. And there's a certain level of loudness that some of them get to, especially the 1.5-year-old. But anyway, when they hit this certain like level of like pitch and I turn and I say, bruh, they know, like, we better just slow it all down. When mom says, bruh, it's about to be over with. Anyway, this
Don't
hit
do it.
that tone.
What?
Ooh! It like, just like the way that it like I said, maybe my headphones were up too loud, but whatever noise that was, it was repulsive.
Well, I definitely saw the Slayer influence in this band. Definitely a lot of Slayer Metallica influence in this band for sure. Desecration of the Earth, massive. First of all, I love the cadence here.
Okay.
It was very, very creative. I love it.
I could not follow it
When
either.
people have the verse lines and the verse lines have something that you go, oh, like we added that little vocal thing to our verse line, yesterday. Like, I love when there's little nuggets in the verse line. So here, desecration of the earth, massive death. End of all that, breathe new life, nothing left. A few survivors nearing death mutated. Slow decaying of the flesh, soon they're dead. Like, it just, there was this kind of symmetry and the pace at which he did it. I love shit like that. I love shit like that because it's like the rhythm in which you repeat these words in itself becomes almost like an instrument. And it's one of the things things I'm starting to see, like with like using some more like rap techniques in lyric writing, especially like that middle part with the like the pace at which that is said, like it just and then it's so like there's a way to make your music heavy without the instrumentation. If you can get a good rhythm going, conceptually with words, that's like the best of all possible worlds. That's just gonna rock. So yeah, like I love the way they did that. Like I think that song, actually, We Will Rock You, is a perfect example of that.
Really? Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
Right, but then We Will Rock You is a crazy chorus, but you still want to sing the verse because it sounds badass. Like,
yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so like, I love that about this band. Eating flesh to stay alive, cannibals. Decaying bodies everywhere, smell of stench. Burning bodies lay in mass, foul gore. Radiation burdens your lungs. I think
that's interesting. The way that they did this.
Instead of rabid. Go ahead.
So we're talking about radiation, right?
Yeah.
But he says eating flesh to stay alive, cannibals. Like almost making it seem like the radiation is cannibalistically eating away at the flesh of consuming the people, and that's how it's staying alive. Like personifying it. That's pretty interesting.
Or it can be literal, and one of the consequences of nuclear fallout is extreme hunger, and so you could see people resorting to cannibalism. That's what happened in the Andes Mountains when them people crashed the plane.
Well, yeah.
Right. So I mean, is a plane crash more catastrophic than a nuke going off?
Well, I just picture like a nuke going off and everybody's bodies are peeling and nobody's trying to think of food. But I could see you crash.
When you say the fallout, right? That's the people who survive.
Yeah.
They have to deal with the fallout. So I think what he's saying is if survivors are reduced to cannibalism because we've so destroyed the earth that the only thing that we can eat to nourish us is the dead bodies of. I mean, they're already cooked in a sense. That's the story he's painting. And like, look, man.
Okay, like a weird, but I would not judge anybody if we like fell off into the Andes Mountains and I was one of the people that died and people consumed me. I have no issue with that. I wouldn't judge you, and I would, if it makes you feel better, I would identify as a horse before I died, so then you could feel better about it.
Oh my God.
And then you could say, what? No, I mean,
Sori, get the 40.
I'm being serious.
Sori, get the 40. Okay.
So then everybody could be like, no, we weren't cannibals. There was a horse up there.
Yeah, I mean, who was judging them folks? I was just kind of like, man, you guys, man, that's a raw deal, bro.
Yeah.
That's a raw raw deal.
Literally raw, right?
Yeah. So, like, yeah, I mean, they'll get reduced to, cannibalism. And it's interesting because I don't know, I'll probably do a review on this at some point, but I keep talking about these UFOs. And it's documented. This is something that's documented. It's not a urban legend. I mean, I give you .gov links for this, like, where you have these craft that are above our nuclear facilities. I mean, it's known. People don't know this. Roswell was not that far away from Oppenheimer's little crazy village. Mm-hmm. And there are reports of interplay between flying craft, unidentified, and all that jazz. And so it's like, there's a particularly famous incident for people that are like obsessed with the phenomena, where these spaceships, whatever you want to call them, craft, shut down and disarmed all of our nuke, capabilities or whatnot. And then on the other side, for the Russians, they observed craft above them, and for them, it went the opposite way. It armed and aimed toward America. They had to call us and say, hey, this is not us. There's some weird craft shit in the sky. And we said, yeah, roger that. And so it's like, one of the most underrated political feats ever accomplished in the history of the United States was Kennedy holding the line by not increasing the hostility between us and Russia. There were some really crazy decisions that had to be made. We sent the pilot to go spy. They shot him down. How do we respond? He had a bunch of people in his ear, like, let's go to war. They had the whole Bay of Pigs thing where you basically sacrifice Americans for a terrorist attack that would give us justification to invade Cuba. And so we would do significant damage to Cuba because Cuba was a proxy of the Russians. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, when I look at the Kennedy era and how he got out of here, how he guided us through that situation, it's like, I remember saying, like, damn, like, we really could have had World War III. Like, we truly could have nuked each other back to the Stone Age at least. So it's like, I've always said, like, damn, like, I don't think we're ever going to have a nuclear holocaust because it would happen already. Whatever is restraining it from happening.
Oh, really? That's what you think?
That's what I believe, yeah. Whatever is restraining it from happening in the 60s, at the height of the Cold War, I don't think we're going to be able to do that. But I encourage you guys, like I said, maybe I'll shoot a video on this, as a standalone thing about these UAPs and what people have said under oath.
Oh, I think you should, for sure.
People have said this stuff under oath. So to me, it's like, look, I always think, can you have a secular way of looking at this Christian idea? So for us, if you pinned me to a wall and said, what are these beings? I would say that 90% of them are probably interdimensional beings who are non-corporeal consciousnesses that do have effects on this platform, in this dimension.
Non-corporeal?
Non-physical. Right, so they're pure consciousness. And so I think that 90% of what we're looking at in those particular things are just as basic as angels and demons, however you want to call them. But I do think that there were demons absolutely working both with Kennedy and the Russians to foment this war, and I also think there were angels that enforced God's decree that at least between the 60s and the 80s we would not end the place in a nuclear holocaust. But those craft are telling us, like, look, we got control over this shit, okay? So figure it out. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So there's a lot more crazy shit that's happened, but this part right here, this is a thing. Go ahead. What were you thinking?
Well, it's just, I'm not thinking anything that's like, probably worth saying. I'm just thinking, like, it's just weird I guess it's weird to me because, growing up, I had a friend that was like really believed in aliens like a big time, and I didn't take him seriously at all. In fact, his belief in aliens like made me think he was like partially crazy because it was like really serious to him, And then, but I always had a belief in demons and angels, and that was unquestionable. Like, that was unquestioned to me. Like, if somebody didn't believe in it, then that was also more evidence that I thought you were crazy. Like, how could you not believe in something so obvious? And then getting to this, like, age, and then, you know, hearing you say interdimensional beings, and then talking about them like angels, demons, whatever you want to call them, but they're still amounting to the same thing. It's just like, wow. So all that time, you know, he had stories, he had, you know, whatever, like, we could have been talking and having like an interesting discussion on it, but because I was like, you're not calling it angels and demons,
right?
It's not alien, you know what I mean? Like, that's just what was in my head. It was just like, wow, like, you can be saying the exact same thing, but because your group calls it something different, it separates.
And it's crazy. And the same thing happens with our secular friends too.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
it's like, what's going on here? Like, yeah. So I definitely think that there was some divine intervention that kept us from the Cuban Missile Crisis, and I think that those beings in those craft were manifestations of that decree. And as Gary Nolan said, look, you know, for people 15,000 years ago, you're going to present yourself as, you know, the desert djinn or the forest, you know, nymph or whatever.
Yeah.
But then if you're in a postmodern context, we're post-enlightenment, postmodern, we've outgrown Christianity and God. You're not going to come as an angel or demon. You're going to come in a scientific way.
Yeah.
As a, you know, and the thing about it is,
one
of the things that's very fascinating to me, and this is almost exclusively, I've only seen this with secularists, is if and when those beings show up, there's almost a consensus from the secular atheist community that we're going to believe whatever they say about science.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, how do you Christians, you guys, you know, when the aliens show up and tell us about that evolution was true, what will you do then? And it's like, okay, we were a much more advanced human, let me say it that way, so I don't offend people. And I'm not going to say, wait, I'll say Europeans, okay? And they went over there and they did what they did and they colonized, right? And so it's like, this is in our DNA. And we never thought to ourselves, well, what if there's a...
Well, the other thing, too, is that people will say, I don't believe in God. And then you say, okay, well, what would give you belief in God? Like, and it just seems like that the bar that people give for God to prove that he exists is like, it doesn't exist. Like, they say he needs to prove himself, but they don't have anything that, it doesn't matter what he does. Like, that's not, they make all these reasons for why that's unacceptable. Oh, that could be a hallucination. Oh, that could be just a projection. If God peels back the sky and tells us. But all of a sudden these interdimensional alien beings, whatever, show up and they tell you that they're good and they tell you who they are and you're like, I believe you. I mean, it just sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, how...
Yeah,
like, keep your bar the same. If you're gonna put God to those standards, put those beings to those too.
Cortez and them conquistadors showed up.
Yeah.
And the indigenous people were like, hey, you guys are gods. Apparently they they fulfilled some prophecy or whatever, Quetzalcoatl. You guys are gods. And like he's like, yeah, show me all your shit.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's the same, like, it's weird to me that these secularists, like, they don't think to themselves, like, what if they're looking at you like that, bruh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would you just surrender your mind to them immediately? Well, the idea is if they could traverse space, these incredible distances, they have to be, their science has to be obviously head and shoulders above our science, right? Yeah. And I would concede that. Yeah. I would concede that. But I don't care how intelligent you are, the laws of logic are the great equalizer. I don't need to be smart as you. If you tell me 2 + 2 is 5, I don't need to be smarter than you to tell you that you're wrong. I don't need to be a mathematician to tell you that you're wrong. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So...
Well, I mean, just because somebody's smarter doesn't mean that they're wiser also. I mean, you know, Homeboy had all of that information. He created a bomb that could have killed us all, you know, the atomic bomb. So it's like, just because he was smart, he didn't use that wisdom. I mean, what could he have done with that could have really helped humanity, that didn't have the potential of killing us all?
That's why, like, I like what Richard says. Nothing can be made from nothing. That's correct.
Yeah.
I had a debate with an atheist. The guy deleted. They keep deleting these videos. But
SubhanAllah.
He said
it was an accident, babe.
I said no. This is the atheist guy, not the Muslim guy.
They're all doing the same thing.
But
Nobody's saying, gee, you know what, I was wrong. Let me
well, I told the homie, I said,
deleted.
I said, he said, what's your evidence for God? And I said, well, there's lots of them, but the fact that you're here asking me the question is proof of God. He goes, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, you're talking here because you exist in a physical plane, and you're a collection of all these atoms and cells or whatever, but you came about because your parents got together, right? Yep. And they came about because their parents got together, right? Yep. Okay. So if we trace it all the way back, we had to have an original parent at some point, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, good. Okay. So we know that the universe has a birthday. It's 14.6 billion years ago. I think the new telescope added another like 2.1 billion years or something like that. But we know that it's 14.6 billion years old, the universe. And I said, the fact that we have a universe and the fact that the universe has a birthday indicates by logical necessity that God has to exist. Because how do you get motion without an unmoved mover? And how do you get creation without an uncreated creator? Mm-hmm. Logically speaking, it's impossible.
Right. I mean, look at what BC said. Who's God's God? Because you're going to keep asking that question until you get down to...
Yeah, the problem for people like BC is that secularists and atheists limit themselves to materialism. Mm-hmm. I'm not a materialist, so that's not a problem for us, because we don't believe that reality started 14.6 billion years ago. What we're measuring happened at 14.6 billion years ago is an action from the consciousness of God. So that I like that. Yeah. Absolutely. That's how I'd answer.
Action from the consciousness of God. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're saying.
Yeah. And
poetically.
So that's the argument. So he said, well, yeah, logically it doesn't, but that's not how science works. I said, right. So he's like, you'll have to prove it. And I said, yeah, I do have the proof. He said, where is this proof? And I said, 0 plus 0 will always equal 0. Mm-hmm. So if there was ever nothing is all we would have.
Yeah.
He said, he stopped and he goes, well, that's a math equation. That's not science. And I said, when Mr. Einstein wanted to prove his theory of relativity, he did not get credit for proving it beyond a shadow of a doubt until he came up with the calculation E equals MC squared. Mm-hmm. You have to have math in order to justify any of your scientific claims.
Yeah.
But the song is really good because the song tells me if we don't have divine intervention, we're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got through the 60s, 70s, and 80s flirting with our friends over there in Russia about blowing up the entire planet. I don't know, with all the egos and all the crazy isms that people have, if you don't believe in God, all right, cool. Cool. Mm-hmm. I just think that he sent them folks to protect us. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm. All right. This song is a 2.4 for me. I really didn't like this one at all. Luckily, we have 2 Repulsion songs back to back, so maybe, I'm not going to have my headphones turned up quite so high, so perhaps that, metal sound, I don't know, whatever it was. When I say metal, I mean, literally the sound of metal on metal. It, hit me the way that, when somebody, cuts in a plate, or, people, when you put fingers down a chalkboard, how people react. That's how, I felt about that sound that kind of came across. Wasn't a fan of that. So, yeah, 2.4 for me. Maybe the next one will be different. I don't know.
This one was a solid. Okay, the open chord stuff was a little bit muddy. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit sludgy, and so it wasn't as defined as I would like it to be. But I got the idea. And you know how your mind fills in these gaps? So, I had the idea what they were doing. That's why I loved it. And there was... I'm going to call it a Raining Blood reference, but it wasn't really Raining Blood. It was basically the pre-chorus, but it was like, which is, I forgot the name of this Slayer song. Do you want to die? That one. Anyway, so I like that. I like that one a lot. I did not realize this, but I think I have a heavy respect for Slayer as a band. As far as speed, as far as speed, playing fast, the thrash, the fast. I think I like Slayer with the thrash speed stuff a little bit more than Metallica.
Okay.
I generally don't like the speed stuff because to me it's kind of one dimensional. But
okay.
Yeah, they did a really good job on that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, you guys. Let's. Do you want to put a commercial here? What are we doing?
Yes, we will take a commercial break. We'll see you beautiful people at the other side of the break.
Be right back.
I don't know, guys. I don't know. I'm not seeing enough likes. It's unfortunate. We're going to have to cut this thing short. Vin out.
Okay. Sorry, out.
Down.